We're back.
We're back.
Law number 9 from the laws of human nature, which is confront your dark side.
Wow.
This is the law of repression. So there's 18 laws. We're now at number 9. Confront your dark side, the law of repression. What do you feel you have a dark side?
Well, according to the book, we all do.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
Yeah.
And supposedly, is developed in childhood when you're repressing all these feelings and emotions, and it grows with you. According to Robert Greene, the sooner you realize you have a dark side and the sooner you try to confront it and grow with it, because you can't get rid of it.
The shadow side.
The shadow, according to Carl Jung. It's an interesting, yeah, the chapter.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of these chapters are getting into your childhood
Yeah,
and what happened to someone as a child ends up affecting them their whole life.
right.
So he opens with Richard Nixon. And what was interesting, we were talking about it before we went live, is that he put the tapes himself, this recording system himself, and then later on these tapes are what brings him down
Correct.
in the whole Watergate scandal. But
He
uh,
put the tapes in the White House,
in the
for
White
those
House,
of you who, you know.
correct.
So Nixon was the president, and, as president, you have all kinds of meetings, foreign relations, domestic, whatever. And he put tapes, sec- secret tapings in the White House, and very few people knew about it. Almost nobody knew about it.
Audio.
Yeah, so he did it because he felt that people were trying to backstab him and betray him, and he would be able to hear conversations of people that were trying to hurt him and were being two-faced and not genuine. And it ended up being his downfall, and he did it in the White House. And
So that's why he put the tapes in the first place, because he was anxious. He had this fear that somebody within his circle would betray him.
correct,
And what Robert Greene is saying is that that goes back to his childhood,
correct.
because he had sickly siblings, and his mother would go away for months at a time, and he
And he
felt
didn't get a lot of
abandoned.
attention from her.
Yeah, he felt abandoned,
Yeah, he felt abandoned.
and so that was his shadow. And you know, in the tapes, what it revealed, I haven't heard any of these tapes. I think once I heard some of the I don't know if it was the audio or transcript of it, but what it revealed was two personalities, or two sides to Nixon. And that's what Robert Greene is saying, is we all have two sides. The thing is that Nixon was repressing, he was hiding one side, which was the side that was paranoid, anxious, couldn't make decisions, and the other side was the good side, which he was showcasing to the public. But that we all have these sides.
Supposedly, we all have the dark side, according to Robert Greene. Look, I come from the school of thought of you are what you make yourself to be. Okay, I'll buy some of it, you know? I'll buy some of it that your childhood ends up, affecting in the way you've been reared. And I mean, if your father hits you, like in the previous chapter, the guy hit the kid, every single one of his sons and daughters with a stick.
Alexander, was it Shosten?
Kosanishka or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, he hit everybody with a stick and whatever. Okay, that's got to affect you. But I'm from the school of thought, stop blaming your childhood and your parents for everything that bad that happens to you, and take some responsibility in the decisions that you're making.
Yeah.
And, forget about it. Stop being a wuss about it and just move forward. That's the school of thought that I come from. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to be blaming your parents for every little thing that happens to you. And by the way, when you become a father or a mother, you realize that the babies don't come with, a direction booklet, how to you know,
A manual.
a manual of, operating manual.
Yeah.
Kids don't come with operating manuals. You do the best you can with what you got. So if you're living God knows where and there's not enough food, but you still put whatever food you can on the table, there's not enough clothing, so you have hand me downs. Are you going to have psychological issues because you guys got hand me downs? If you got psychological issues about it, fix them, move on.
So
That's where I come
I
from. I'll buy some of it,
yeah.
Mike. But all this dark shadow thing and all this kind of stuff, and I'm sure that there's people out there that are evil and all that stuff, but I
Well,
don't buy it all.
what I get out of it is that some of these things that occurred to you as a child, if you repress them, they're going to come out in your weakest moments. He says that when you're drunk, many times people are showcasing the shadow side.
Well, I buy that.
Now, what I like is that he says, use this shadow, control that, and use it as an energy, let's say, to channel that energy into something productive, let's say. So it's not the victim mentality because you're saying, hey, if you're blaming your childhood for all your problems, that's not good. And I would agree with that. And I think Robert Greene's not saying to do that. What he's saying is recognize that these things are in your personality, these traits, and recognize why you're acting this way. And then instead of letting that come out in a moment of weakness, use it as like a chip. Now, if you look at a lot of these people that are extremely successful, they all have had some extreme childhood, whether they're traumas or major things that have happened to them in their life. Or you don't even have to say successful, but people who get to certain levels, a lot of times it seems have a chip, something to prove, and maybe those people have used that what occurred to them in, let's say, their shadow side, they're using that as energy. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, I agree. I mean, a lot of people that I've talked to that are define success. So success could be not just monetarily. You could have a very good family. You could be an elite athlete. You could be a tremendous architect, engineer, a scientist, a researcher. So you can reach a level of success in your field.
Sure.
A lot of these people, okay, are motivated by what happened to them as a child.
Yeah.
You know, it gives them the strength of character to move forward and not quit.
Or as what Green is saying, overcompensate. So, like, for example, he's saying the person that is the tough guy is actually in their shadow, they're the opposite. So they are trying to overcompensate, they're trying to hide the fact that they're not actually that tough guy, but they do all of these protective mechanisms. And that was one thing. There's depth to the shadow too. Apparently Nixon had, according to Green, a very deep shadow. He had hidden it very, very well. But some of these people use, let's say, the tough guy persona to protect the fact who they really are, maybe more of a sensitive person.
Right. It's interesting because, I liked Nixon. While he was running the country and stuff like that, and his foreign policy and stuff, of course, I was very young, you know, but I liked him. I thought he was doing a good job. And then all of a sudden, the next thing I know, but I was disconnected. But anyway, the next thing I know, he's, resigning and he was going to go to jail. It was Gerald Ford that pardoned him, and a lot of people criticize Ford for doing that. But this is getting off the subject. So you just never know, really. Sure, everybody, you know, like there's a point in the book that he says, when you're standing at a big tall abyss, who hasn't felt the need to push the person that's next to you over the abyss? And I'm thinking, wow, I don't know that I've ever thought about something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, but he says, no, you think about it, but you just don't
Well,
do it.
yeah, like, ha- so it's an interesting thing. So, like, society, we're meant to be cordial to people. We're supposed to be respect your elders, follow these rules. You go to school, this, that. But we we're not born with that structure.
No,
And actually, we're born more creative. We're born wanting to just act on our will, our
impulsive, full of
impulsive,
energy.
right? And some of that is, let's say, violent.
And this is what the kid wants, and that's what he takes,
Yeah.
period.
However he needs to get it, he'll
And
push
then,
somebody out of the way to get it.
right, and then the parent says, share, you have
Like,
to
if you,
share.
like, trying to get kids to get in line or something to get, let's say, like, when the it's like when the piñata breaks at a family party, chaos, all the kids run in. There's no let the person get in front of you. Oh, go ahead, like we do, opening the door. And I think that that's like, we get taught out of those things. And so I think what he's referring to is when you're at the a cliff and you get the urge to push somebody off the cliff, it's because you're repressing, let's say, a lot of these tendencies of
Right.
maybe aggression or violence. You're repressing it, so you have like that fantasy of doing that. You don't act on it, but you're doing it. I thought it was interesting how he says, why is it so popular? Why is it that cults, series of cults, and movie series of crime, serial killer series, why are those so popular in our culture? Why are people so fascinated and want to watch the crime series about Dahmer? Um, was it Dahmer?
Yeah.
You had the guy, the
Hmm.
Manson, or these cults and all this stuff. Why? For some reason, I've always thought it's very interesting how these cults are able to captivate people. So
Yeah.
why? So, anyways, he's saying that it's because we don't get to actually act out things in society, so we use that to vent, and we watch those shows
Wow.
to vent.
Where does that put me, man? I watch those shows all the
You-
I watch that all
well,
the
how thick
time.
is that shadow?
I know. My goodness gracious.
But it's interesting because I like the idea of like analyzing people when somebody acts out a certain way. Is that, let's say, their shadow coming out? That's really who they are, or another side of them that they're hiding from you.
Yeah, it's interesting. He talks about when you're drunk, when you drink too much. I always thought, okay, your inhibitions are diminished
Hmm.
and your true self comes out,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But he's talking about when you're drunk, that's your shadow working its way out.
But that is part of your true self.
It sure is. And it reminded me on the previous chapters, Stalin used to throw those parties and get his senators or whatever drunk so that he could see how they reacted to see if they were really true, genuine on his side or not. Very,
Yeah,
very interesting stuff.
yeah.
You get people. Who else did that?
P Diddy.
P. Diddy?
That's a big one.
I guess so. Lyndon Baines Johnson. He would throw parties, and
Oh, did he?
yeah, and his drinks would be watered down.
Oh,
They
his would be.
his would be watered down, but not the rest of the people. And
Yeah.
he would observe
See, to me,
Lyndon
that's
Johnson.
that's Machiavellian.
It is Machiavelli.
Or, well, I guess if you're putting water in your drink, you're not. But if you're pushing drinks on other people,
Well, there's a
just to see how they get when they, you know, divulge more information or whatever when they get drunk, that's
that's
not
done
good.
all the
That's
time.
dark. Yeah, it is. It is. I had a rule.
Lyndon Baines Johnson.
I had a rule when I would go to
St-
business events, because I would see how people would get when they would drink at a
mhm.
business event, and I thought, this is for business, and so I had a rule that I wouldn't drink at a business events. and people would be, "Hey man, have a beer or whatever," and question me, and in a, I don't think in a bad way, try to push me to have a drink. But I would always say no. But now you're standing out, you're too good to drink. Why aren't you
Right.
drinking with us?
You're not one of us.
Yeah,
What I would do is, and I went to many of them, what I would do is I would get a glass of red wine, and that glass would last me all night. I take little sips here and there, and people would see me
with
with
the
a
same
glass of
glass.
wine, and they just didn't know it was the same glass, you know?
Yeah.
But I would have the same glass of wine
Well,
because
you
I
had
wanted to
self
stay
control.
right. I wanted to stay in control, And there were people that I went to some places and they were business meetings, and then afterwards there was dinner, and then afterwards there was like,
Party.
like a party kind of thing. But they would be wasted
Yeah.
before dinner. And so it's not good because I'm here to tell you that it's other people that own businesses look at you and you can't control your liquor. So you're not going to get business that way.
Yeah.
Period.
You're
You won't.
people are gonna they're not gonna forget how you got, you know.
Yeah. Oh no, they're gonna remember always how you. I remember one time we went to, yeah, it was out of state. The company threw a party in Hawaii, and we went there, and there were a couple people that got wasted, and they got on stage with performers, and
Yeah.
this is not good.
No.
Not good at
No,
all.
it's
I
not
never
good.
forgot it. How do
Dr.
you get
Jekyll and
business
Mr.
from it?
Hyde, that
Right.
was
That
one
was
thing
really interesting.
so he's saying we have that. Dr. Jekyll, and then Mr. Hyde is the dark side.
I really enjoyed that book. Robert Louis Stevenson. Yeah, I mean, see, that's the other part that I come back to it and I say to myself, for sure we have a dark side. For sure. Because it was very interesting how the book developed that where he invents some kind of liquid that when he drinks it, his dark side comes out. And then he goes into town and does all kinds of horrible things. But when he's, you know, Dr. Jekyll, he's just the epitome of courteousness and, you know, nice person. It's very interesting. You guys should read that book. But yeah, Robert Greene says that in a sense happens to us. And like you said, the more is repressed, the worse it becomes.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Another part that was interesting to me, because I'm older than you and I'm getting older by the minute,
We
is
all
that,
are.
yeah, he says,
You're not
as
aging
you,
faster than me.
huh?
You're not aging faster than me, are you?
By the minute. So it's interesting in the book, Robert Greene says, and you've been wearing this mask or this masquerade all these years, trying to repress your dark shadow, your dark side. But as you get older, you get tired of this. And then you get leaks in the
Yeah.
mask. And your dark side begins to leak out as you get older. It's scary.
Yeah, and you lose the I mean, we would say it with grandma when, I mean, she got to be 97 and a half. But then she would sometimes be at a party and say something, she's in her 90s, look at that person. Look how fat they are,
Oh
or
God.
whatever the case, right?
Oh God.
Look how much they're eating. And we're like, grandma. But, that, what would you call it? The inhibitions, you
They
kind
get
of,
loosened
you're,
out,
yeah, you're
or
just,
you're in your 90s, you don't give a
you don't
rat's
care.
baloney
You don't
what
care.
people think of you.
That's the thing. Now, using towards the
It's
ending,
very interesting.
towards the ending of the chapter, Greene says, these are things you can do with your shadow. And one of them is actually stop caring so much about what people think of you.
Correct.
That's a good thing to stop doing that. What do you
To a
think?
certain extent,
Yeah.
you can become cynical. See, uh, look, mark my words, as you get older, your ideas on all this is going to change. Because I understand, for example, with grandma, she was 97. She didn't care what people thought of her.
Yeah.
She let you have it, you know. If you didn't sleep the night before and you came to visit her and you looked like mud, she would tell you, "Well, you look horrible today. What happened to you?" You know, where other people probably not even mention it, but she would
People are
let you.
trying to be nice.
People are trying to be nice. Hey, how are you? I like your haircut. You got bags under your eye. So she would let you have it. Hey,
Yeah.
you really look bad. What happened to you? You know?
She would was one of the only people that, because this was in high school and stuff, and I would have a lot of pimples. And if I had like popped a pimple or something, or, messed with my face, she would tell me, "No te toques la cara," "No te hagas eso a la cara. Don't mess with your face like that." But most people wouldn't say
No,
anything.
of course not.
But she would, "Hey, don't do that to your face."
I remember one time your brother went to see her and he had a huge pimple on his nose. And I was there and he walks in. He looked like Rudolph. He walks in and grandma goes, "Oh my God, what's wrong with your nose?" And your brother goes, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, well, tell me. Let's get it over with."
Well, you do it too. You call it out. But there's,
But I do it for fun
yeah.
and to bother people. What
She,
happened to your nose,
she was
bro?
just being honest.
Yeah.
Um,
Anyway, we got sidetracked, but that was
it's
fun.
but it does make you look at things differently, like when you're interacting with people and little things pop out that you catch, that they say a certain thing, passive aggressiveness. What's it called? Yeah, 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 passive
Passive
aggressiveness.
aggressiveness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like they're being nice, but the way they're being nice,
Right.
something's off.
Well, there's somewhere in here in the chapter where he's talking about make sure that you're genuine.
Yes.
Try to be as genuine as you possibly
Authentic.
authentic. Because if you're not, people will see through it,
Absolutely.
you know? Um,
I agree.
it's interesting. This weekend I went to a classic car show here and they had there were, I don't know, 1,000 cars there, and they were selling all kinds of accessories. And I come up to one guy that was selling accessories, and he had a Kincaid. What do you call those in English?
It's a lantern?
Yeah,
I think
lantern.
like a gas lit lantern.
Yeah, but they use kerosene, a
Kerosene.
kerosene lamp. He had a kerosene lamp, and I said, "Hey, how much is that?" Because I really like those. I have a bunch of them. Talking about the issues from childhood, right?
That's part of yours.
That's part of my,
Dumping
we're
things.
all messed up. I'm all messed up. Anyway, and so he says, "I'll take $30 for that." Yeah, that was mine. And I go, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, did you use it?" He says, "Yeah, yeah. I'm selling everything that's mine. You know why?" And I go, "No, why?" And he says, "Because nobody cares when you die. All this is gonna get, given away, this and that." So he went on to, and
Hey, there's truth to that.
there's truth to that. He told me, "Look, 3 or 4 days after you die, nobody remembers you." He was I walked out of there.
That seems a little bit
Yeah, he says nobody cares, nobody cares. I'm selling everything that I have because and everything that he was selling, he had owned and used previously. It was very interesting.
he wasn't connected to the material things.
No, it was very interesting listening to the philosophy that he had, and he
Mm.
was 60 years old. So I'm 5 years older than this guy. I don't quite think like that yet. Um, but you just never know what people are going through
Yeah.
and what may trigger that dark side to come out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like this weekend also we went to a restaurant where we really, really like, and there's a lady there and we hadn't seen her in about 3 or 4 months. And we saw her and we said, "Hi, how are you? We haven't seen." Well, long story short, she had brain surgery, and I think she's 40 years old. maybe 39 years old, somewhere around there. Okay. And she has a young son, so she can't be, you know. And
Yeah.
so, um, you just never. And this lady, by the way, is the nicest thing you've ever seen, and she was still the nicest thing. And she had surgery on her left side of the brain, and now she needs surgery on the right side of the brain,
Wow.
some kind of blood vessel, venous circulation thing. But where's her dark side? Because I mean, she could be depressed, but she's not depressed there at work. She's not showing it.
Hmm.
Is she hiding it? She could be sad,
I'm
but
sure she's
she's not
hiding it.
sad.
I'm
Yeah,
sure she's hiding it. I mean, I had a meeting recently where someone told me, I get stressed out and this and that. And I said, I've never seen you in a stressed state. And they said, well, that's because I work on it and not try not to bring that to a business setting or the public setting. But people have issues and they try to cope with it. And then when they're dealing with the public, not try to showcase that. Um, he gets into the different types of shadows.
yeah,
And what I found interesting was the opposite. The person that is really against one thing, it's because they're repressing maybe
the opposite.
the opposite. So we
Like
talked
the
about
tough guy is really not that tough.
the saint is
It's
is
really not
really
that
after
sane.
power. Ignore their words, notice their actions. The passive aggressive charmer, the rigid nationalist, rationalist, I'm sorry, the rigid rationalist, the snob. Um, he says we yearn to be around authentic type of people. So when we encounter an authentic person, we crave that and we connect with that. So I that goes to what you were saying. Try to be genuine, try to be authentic. We're all wearing a mask to a certain degree.
We all are.
Um, so what can you do? I thought it was cool how he brought up like the first thing is you got to see your shadow, understand that it's there and recognize, acknowledge it. That's you have to acknowledge that you have one too and sit down and figure out what is your shadow. What is that? Because you can tap into that. And I thought it was cool how he brought up these people like Einstein, Steve Jobs, he brought up Abraham Lincoln. They understood their shadow and used it to their advantage. And a lot of, let's say, good things that we're able to put out in life or things that come to us, insights, come from, let's say, the unconscious. And in the unconscious, dream states or whatever the case, ideas come to you. And the unconscious is your shadow. So you're thinking these things. Would it be subconsciously?
Subconscious.
Subconscious. I'm sorry. The subconscious is your shadow. So when it just an idea comes to you, let that entertain that idea and like cultivate that. Try to have moments of less rigid structure, a little bit looser time where you can allow these ideas to come to you, and that is your subconscious coming to you. And these people, Jobs, Lincoln, what was the other one, Einstein,
Einstein.
that he says that the theory, one of his theories of relativity, came to him in, I think, a dream state.
Yeah. Um, Another one was he was like spaced out. He was looking at a clock, and I guess he was on a train.
Einstein.
Yeah, and he was like visualizing something. So it came to him like in a state of um he
Maybe like
wasn't,
daydreaming,
yeah,
something like that.
something like that. It's very interesting. We don't know the power of the mind.
Yeah.
I mean, many times it's been said that is the most powerful computer on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
And I believe it. All the things that we can do with our minds is incredible. You know, um, one of the things that I'm doing today, since I'm older, is I try to live the present with the person that I'm with to the fullest and absorb everything I can in that moment and give everything of me that I can in the present. Because as I'm getting older and older, like you said, okay, I said, I'm getting older by the minute. And you said, well, you're not, me too, you're not getting older. I'm not getting older than you faster.
We're aging at the same pace.
We're aging at the same pace, right? And
I think so.
let's say that that is a fact and is a constant, okay? However, when I was younger, like your age, I was doing so many things that if we were having a conversation, I might not be totally in the conversation.
Huh. It's happened to me.
Okay.
It happens to me. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you're thinking about the future. We're planning for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And you are also thinking about the future, but maybe in a different way. You've already accomplished maybe some of the things you wanted to accomplish. And at my age, I still need to accomplish a lot of things that I want to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'm thinking a lot about the future.
Well, could it be because you have a family now?
It could be because I have a family, but I've always planned, I've always thought of the future. Um, but it definitely takes work to be in the moment.
It takes, it's like you say, I tell you all the time, you have to be
Intentional.
intentional about it.
Yeah.
You do. Actually, I think that anywhere that you direct your focus and your attention, you have to be intentional about it. But I'm very much intentional in the present. And if there's something that's going on that I don't like, I either walk out of that place or I run out of that place or I try to change the situation. If I'm with a family member, I'll say, hey, you know what? I'm not feeling it or whatever, but I'm trying to, because I think that living the moment, the present, is extremely important,
Yeah.
especially when you get older, you know? Um, anyway, that's what I think now.
Yeah.
So I'm extremely intentional in the present,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
whatever it is that I'm doing. But the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people explode because of the most minute and petty things, and you sit back and you say, wow, what just happened?
Yeah.
And I've seen it in a business setting. I actually did it one time. That I can. I'm sure I might have done it more than once, because I'm no, by far not perfect in any sense. But I remember one time getting out of hand with somebody to the point that afterwards I came back and I said, "Hey, I'm sorry," But it was in a group setting, so guilty of it. But Nixon,
Do you know why you reacted like that? Looking
um,
back,
I do, I do,
something triggered.
I do know
So,
why, and that's as far as I'm gonna go in this.
something was triggered. Yeah.
It was.
Maybe something from your childhood. It's yeah. So
There's
look,
some things I'm, not gonna share in the podcast.
trust your native ideas. Trust the ideas that come to you, your creativity.
What kind of ideas?
Native?
Native.
I
Okay.
think I think that's the word that he used for
Okay.
that. The shadow becomes your ally. I like it because instead of being like I'm hiding from my shadow, I want to repress this side of me, bring it out to the light. There won't be a shadow in the light, and maybe you can use it for good. Um, Tim Grover, the guy that was the trainer for Kobe Bryant and several other guys, he talked a lot about the dark side. I don't know if you remember.
A little bit.
He said that Kobe Bryant had a dark side, and he was able to use that like a chip, and that all of these pro athletes that are at that high level have some chip, something that they have to prove, this dark side. And
Hmm.
if you can fine tune it and bring it out when it needs to come out, um, it will help you in life. One of the quotes that, to finish, and I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to throw in, was from Carl Jung. And I've heard Peterson quote Carl Jung quite a bit. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people that quote Carl Jung.
Yeah.
So, but it says, there's a quote: "Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is." So everybody carries a shadow.
Wow.
The less it is embodied in that individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. Carl Jung.
That's
So
amazing.
basically, what I'm understanding from that is that if you don't bring that shadow out to be part of who you are, your personality, it's going to be a darker shadow and a blacker and denser shadow. And that's not a good thing.
No, because for example, the prime example that Robert Greene uses in the book is Richard Nixon.
Hmm.
Apparently, in those tapes,
Yeah, there was some ugly stuff.
very ugly stuff. Not just language, but conniving, deceiving. And there's a portion there that says even his family was shocked to hear some of those tapes. I mean, I feel for the guy because there's certain things that, you don't want to come out. Maybe you're not proud of what you've done. The book also talks about that. When you're younger, you're more impulsive and your shadow is stronger. And are you okay with some of the things that you have done when you were younger, like in business or something like this? It's very interesting. But in Nixon's case, um,
Well, you're acting out more, right? So
right.
the shadow is more maybe brought to light. The darker side, let's say, of you is more part of who you are. As we age, we hide it more and more because it's not accepted. But as in a youth, it's a little bit more accepted. I think that's the way I got it.
Okay. Hmm.
No, did you get a different take on that?
Well, yeah, I agree with that, but then he's talking about as you get older, then it starts leaking
Leaking
out as
that
you get
because you've repressed it.
because you've repressed it so much. You know what it feels like? It's like a dam, right?
Yeah.
That's holding back water, and it can only do so for so much. And then you start seeing cracks in the foundation, and then
But what if you could channel that dam
right.
and you can create an aqueduct, and use that energy focused. I think that's what this is about.
I think so. It's getting to know yourself better and understanding your darker side, which is definitely there for all of us.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I think a homework assignment, I've done this, is to like with a just piece of paper and pen and write down certain aspects of our own personality. Maybe some of the things that are darker, some of the things that are, you know, um, that we want to be known as. Um, I do it with other people too. I do it about other people. What are the words that come to mind when I think of, let's say, Pablo?
Really?
What are the words that come to mind?
That's interesting.
It's a good exercise. And then also, what are the words that you want for people to come to mind when they think of you, if you care? But most of the time in business settings, you do have a certain reputation you want to uphold and
Yeah.
whatnot.
Well, the business setting, because of Nixon put away that guy, what was his name? He put him
Yes,
in jail.
yeah,
Well, when he did that, he made enemies with all the East. uh, elites that were in Congress and all this. So they didn't allow him and his wife to be in their, um, socializing clubs and stuff like that. So it diminished the amount of contacts that he had and therefore his power. So when he became a president, okay, he, he thought he had gained a tremendous amount because, becoming the president of the United States is probably one of the most illustrious jobs you could possibly have.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he ended up, was it Halderman? Halderman was his chief of staff.
Mm-hmm.
And
He fired him and Ellerman. He fired both of them
yeah.
because some head had to roll in, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. Apparently, he was very close to Ellerman. What's his name?
Halderman.
Ehrlichman. And he cried when he fired him.
Yeah, see, that's the thing on the tapes. And then one of the things, to wrap it up, Robert Greene brings up that he was told that they were going to subpoena him for the tapes. So I don't know if it was Halderman. Somebody told him you
No, it
could.
was Alexander Haig.
Okay,
And the reason I remember this is because I lived it.
he said you can get rid of the tapes. It reminds me.
Destroy them.
It reminds me.
Alexander Haig told him, destroy the tapes.
It reminds me of all those emails that disappeared not too long ago from politicians. You know, the politicians play these
Oh,
games.
32,000 emails.
And it's on all sides, but this is the
Yeah,
reality.
we're not going to
But
get political.
they asked him to
I
get
was talking about
they asked him to
destroy.
they said, hey, you can destroy these tapes, and Nixon decided, apparently, no, we're going to give a transcript, redact, uh
Alexander Haig told him.
and it ended up being where they did end up taking all the tapes.
Yeah,
And
and it
then
was horrible.
everything was exposed.
Oh, it was horrible.
Now, one of the things that was interesting, they caught him on tape saying, play it tough. He said it to Halderman, I believe, his chief of staff. He said
Mm-hmm.
he asked him to play it tough. And he was talking about, Greene was saying that these were like his insecurities as a child. And that he knew that they were going to subpoena the tapes. He still decided, I guess, to release them. And,
No, he had no choice. After he got subpoenaed,
but
if he didn't do it, then he'd be in contempt or whatever.
yeah,
He could have.
interfering
Oh,
somehow.
oh God,
But he could
obstruction
have
of
gotten rid
justice.
of them.
He could have
And
gotten rid of him before he got subpoenaed, and he didn't.
but one of the reasons I took that as like he was self-sabotaging. Like he
He,
created these tapes and he knew it was going to self-sabotage him, I guess, one day.
well, I took it as if he was indecisive, and he had these issues from childhood. And when the pressure got too high, he wasn't able to pull the trigger and make decisions, which was his dark side. Because on the other side, he every time he came out on TV or he looked like he was in control all the time. I'm telling you, I thought he was a good president until all this stuff. Watergate is basically a cover up, okay?
They were trying to go in
Into the
to the
hotel,
Watergate building, right?
into the Watergate building, which was the um, Democratic Party's headquarters, let's say.
And they were trying to put tapes, right?
They were trying to dig up all dirt that
Oh,
they
okay.
possibly could so that they could use that against the Democratic Party and win. But Nixon won, I believe, by a landslide anyway. But the Watergate issue came back
Came
to haunt
back.
him. I think what put the nail in the coffin was the fact that in one of the tapes, he said, let's use the CIA to squash the FBI
FBI investigation.
investigation.
Yeah.
And that's occlusion and God knows what other terms and I mean that
That's where they got him.
but there was a lot of bad stuff in there. But
Yeah.
that's one of the big
You're
ones.
not supposed to be doing that.
No,
Right.
you're perjury and this and how many other laws are you
Yeah.
breaking? In the book he says that he was a tremendous political sabi type of individual, that he created his own self destruction because of the lack of control of his dark side. And
But he was a good politician.
yeah, so, and I've seen that, Mike, I've seen that um, in people, and they resort to, like, I had a friend that he had the world at his fingertips. I'm talking about family life, business, tremendous businesses, and he started drinking and blew it all away. All the businesses, all the money. The wife ended up leaving him also. So, um, there's something to the dark side, guys. You have to, it's part of us, and we need to learn to live with it, and make the best of it.
Yeah. All right.
If you don't, it'll destroy you.
Yeah.
These things that get deep.
Dark. They get dark. All right.
All right,
Well,
here we go. Halfway through.
confront your dark side. Thank you.